Well, hello, I'm Shelley Brunswick, Chief Operating Officer here at Space Foundation, a WBAF Senator for the USA, Global Women Leaders Committee Board of Directors member, and G100 Country Chair for the Space Technology and Aviation Wing. Today, I have the honor of moderating this international, interdisciplinary panel of Global Transformational Leaders, or GTL as I like to call them. I'd like to give a special thank you to WBAF and the Global Women Leaders Committee for making this event possible. GTL is a highly relevant and required form of leadership for today's changing world. In this exclusive webinar, we'll discuss and provide an overview of what GTL is and the essential traits and skills needed to be a successful leader in today's world. Those three traits for being a success as a GTL are inspirational, authenticity, and gratitude. And these traits embody being a global transformational leader who remains true to their values and beliefs and works collaboratively to make the world a better place. The aim of the panel discussion is to provide the audience with insight from GTLs and then apply these traits to their own leadership style to create real and lasting change. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists and providing them an opportunity to give an opening statement. First, I'd like to introduce Sanem Paula. She is the founder of Chi-Tech Consultancy, a software company established in 2017. As a Turkish entrepreneur, she won the most successful Young Entrepreneur in Europe Award in 2021. Her software company was shortlisted as Tech Startup of the Year, led by a woman in 2023, as well as supporting the Women in Tech organization and encouraging the inclusion of women in technology. She's also been appointed by the WBAF as a representative of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Later, she became a member of the Global Women Leaders Committee, aiming to encourage women entrepreneurship. Besides her tech career, she's also the co-founder of Youth Innovation, a non-governmental organization aimed at the personal development of young people by developing new skills and competencies through international projects. Well, thank you, Sanem, for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sinem. I'm really honored to be here as a panelist today. I run a software company for 6 years, and as a female entrepreneur, I try to encourage more women's involvement in tech. Besides, we run NGO with my sister. We started again for 6 years now in 2017, and where we do projects with funding from European Commission. And in today's discussion, I wish to offer my insights on global transformational leadership that I hope will be valuable to our conversation. And I hope it will be beneficial for you with any way possible. And I'm really looking forward to start engaging with my fellow panelists and learning from their perspectives and from their experience. And I'm really excited to get started. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sanem. That was wonderful. Now I'd like to introduce Deborah Walliser, a global visionary and agricultural entrepreneur who began her career over 25 years ago to change how the world produces and distributes food. In 2008, she founded her first hydroponic technology company and began selling produce under the Got Produce brand. In 2010, Deborah founded a global franchising company for clients worldwide and was selected to embark on the first Obama administration executive-led trade mission to sub-Saharan Africa. She is currently a WBAF Senator of Namibia, advisory board member to numerous companies, Agritech Country Chair of Namibia, Namibia Chairman of the G100 Group of the Global Women Leaders, board member of WBAF Global Women Leaders Committee, and an international mentor for Jamaica Development Bank. Thank you, Deborah, for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you everybody that is joining us today. It's an honor to be able to put my 2 cents in. I've been a global business leader for 25 years. Started out with just trying a little business idea, and I think that's where everybody starts, and it snowballed from there. And now I have the privilege and honor of giving back. So able to be a mentor and advisor to other women and other companies and other young leaders coming up. So very happy to kind of be able to give back what everybody has given me over time. So I look forward to this panel. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deborah. Next, I'd like to introduce Peter Hugh. Peter is the Market Development Head at CFLW Cyber Strategies BV. He's an expert at transforming ideas into business, establishing beachheads in new markets, and contextualizing policy development against market realities. Since 2020, he's collaborated with diverse foreign organizations to promote good practices in fighting abuse of crypto assets and the dark web. He's adept at bridging East-West cultural divides across public, private, and community sectors to spearhead commercialization and co-creation initiatives, as well as plan and coordinate impactful programs for specific target markets. Peter has more than 20 years' experience in the Singapore government, offshore banking, entrepreneurship, and cybersecurity initiatives. He is also an international partner for Singapore at the World Business Angels Investment Forum, driving insights on issues critical to sustainable smart cities, cybersecurity programs, and startup ecosystems. Thank you, Peter, for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Shelley. I'm grateful for this opportunity to join all you ladies, be the thorn among the roses. So I was born and raised in Singapore, and I went to school in the US on a local government scholarship. Since then, I've worked in the government, in the banking sector. I've been an entrepreneur in the health supplements and creative industries, and I'm currently a cybersecurity researcher. I work remotely for Seaflow Cyber Strategies, which is a Dutch company where I lead the investigations, studies, and training function. Our company's main product is a search engine for the dark web. We provide strategic insights and operational perspectives on how crypto and the dark web are abused for cybercrime purposes in order to create a safer cyberspace. My work involves researching technological and criminological trends, and I drive landscape studies and thought leadership to address challenges and opportunities in the cybersecurity and law enforcement pipelines. For example, I've conducted extensive studies into terrorist financing, sexual violence, child sexual abuse, and human trafficking that are facilitated by the dark web. And as part of my work, I collaborate with diverse foreign organizations to promote global strategies and good practices in combating cyber-enabled crime. COVID has not just exacerbated many forms of cybercrime, but also triggered a 25% increase in the prevalence of anxiety and depression worldwide. Therefore, I'm currently also pursuing a master's in counseling. Back to you, Shelley.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. And as you can tell, this is the Global Women Leaders Committee. However, we invited Peter to join us because it's important to have a diversity of mindsets, backgrounds, genders, and thoughts. So thank you, Peter, for collaborating with us. Next, I'd like to introduce Smita Joshi. Smita is an award-winning author, avid yogi and teacher, and mentor, as well as a high-performance transformational coach. She's the author of the Amazon bestseller, Karma and Diamonds Trilogy, a journey of self-discovery across continents and lifetimes. This story is inspired by real events from her own life about finding and giving expression to the you beyond life's noise and circumstances. The central theme of Karma and Diamonds is how your inner voice, the intelligence of the wise, conscious part of you that exists beyond your ordinary awareness, has the power to guide you to live a fulfilling life. Prior to writing the trilogy, in a business career spanning 25 years working with technology giants as well as startups, Smita worked internationally with global leaders of industry-winning multi-million-dollar contracts, the largest being $1 billion. She was among the first to bring India's information technology services into the heart of British and European companies. Thank you, Smita, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Shelley, and thank you for inviting me on the panel. It's such an amazing panel. Really honored to be here, and hi to Lucy and Baybaz and everybody who's on the call today. So yeah, for me, transformation, I think, at some level has always been at the core of my life. Even when I started working in corporates at 21 years of age, I wanted to work with products and services that were leading edge at the time. And what I didn't know at the time as to why I wanted to do that, I now understand that for me, what that was all about was really the opportunity to shift people's belief systems, mindsets that were heavily invested in this direction or another direction. So I really loved the challenge, and still do, of disrupting set ways of being and doing things. Because that's where, for me, growth actually lies. And alongside of my working internationally in startups and large companies, I actually went very deep into areas of self-discovery with questions like, who am I? What is my life for? What would be worth giving my life, my precious life force to, in the few years that I have on the planet? And so the two things always went side by side for me. The corporate work was very much sustained by and fueled by this inner discovery, this question of life. And if I didn't have one, I felt that the other didn't feel. It was like eating, bread without anything on it. So the two have really gone hand in hand. And it's in inquiring to get the answers to these types of questions that I'd say I've kept getting my own personal transformation, and and the passion for supporting other people with theirs. And that's why, even though I had a very, very demanding international role in services that were usually ahead of their time, where there was not a paradigm set in place to serve into or to speak into, I trained as a leader of transformational programs alongside. And so I've somehow managed my schedule to make that possible. It was ninja training in understanding the mindsets, the psychology of people. Because if you want to transform anything, including in the environments in which I work, where I normally work with board members and very senior people who report into the board, because the budgets were always large, the main challenge was shifting their mind in a way which, which didn't. So I was asking them to give up their belief systems, but I wanted to do it in a way where they felt that it was their idea, that they were really coming on board. Excuse me. They're really coming on board to support a shift of which they would be a part of going forward. So that's where my passion for training as a leader in programs for transformation came from. And I continued now including now in terms of serving into organizations for leadership, executive, mindset shifting, coaching, and so on. All of those types of things that I've picked up in the last 25 to 30 years, I'm bringing from my own personal experience, as well as the things that I've developed in my corporate work.
Fantastic. Thank you, Smita. Well, we have an amazing group of panelists, and today we're going to discuss global transformational leadership, or GTL, and the importance it plays in today's world. GTL is a leadership style I've observed over my 25-year career in the space industry, and I've conducted interviews with numerous global leaders to create and identify the key traits and skills of a GTL. So just what is this GTL and the main traits, you ask? Well, they're inspirational, authentic, and they have gratitude. Inspirational is one of the most important qualities that a leader should have today. And the traits related to that are visionary, positive, communication skills, passion, global mindset, able to execute, inspire, and more. Authenticity traits are trust, relatability, integrity, transparency, ability to connect with others, and build relationships. And the traits that relate to gratitude are humility, being a servant leader, having empathy, emotional intelligence, recognition and appreciation of others, and giving back and mentoring. We're now going to ask our panelists to jump in and share with us, what does being a global transformational leader mean to each of you? Sinem, I'd love to start with your thoughts, and then Deborah, Peter, Smita, please jump in.
To me, global transformation leader means having clear vision for a positive change, but on a global scale. And it also means to inspire and empower people so we can make this beautiful, positive change in the world. For example, being global transformation leader requires not only having clear vision or inspiring, but also encouraging people to take risk. What I mean here is like encouraging people to take action towards achieving their vision. As a leader can help to push people's boundaries, and if leader encourage more people, an effect of one leader grows like a snowball effect from one person to many people. And I think a leader can help to push people's boundaries. And for example, I think this is one of the nicest things that describes what it means from my opinion. But when I say it, pushing boundaries, encouraging or inspiring, but it doesn't really end here. It also means to understanding importance of inclusion, supporting different type of perspectives, voices, and so on. So, for example, as I'm someone who supports encouraging of inclusion of more women in technology, I believe that being global transformational leader means empowering diversity and equality as well, because we need to understand to give equal opportunities to both women and men, because I observe it through my work currently, because I work in tech industry, which is male dominated. And so for me, it's also important to mention about giving equality when we describe what it means from my side. And a leader, I think, need to be collaborative. A leader need to be inclusive. And a team leader at the same time, not only a leader and part of to be this team, part of the community. And a leader is when leader is taking bold action. I think when leader is taking bold action to achieve her vision, he or she needs to empower others to do the same, and that includes to be able to take risk, ability to adapt these ups and downs, changing moments. And I believe in the end, this is a combination of everything that I mentioned. Thank you.
Deborah, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I absolutely love what Sinem said, and
Thank you.
I love the phrase global transformational leader. If you look at those three words in particular, and then you put them together, I think it is the most exciting phrase that we could ever talk about. So just the word transformational, I mean, that means we take something and we turn it into something else. So we're building, we're having an impact, we're changing. And when you talk about global transformational leader, we're changing the world, we're impacting the world. That is such a big, exciting, what do they call it? Big, hairy, audacious goal or something like that. But it is fantastic. And I think never before have we been in a day and age where everybody gets a fair shot at that. To be a leader in your own right, in your own town, in your own community, in your own thought processes. We can share ideas, we can collaborate, but just taking this one step further, if you are going to fill the shoes of a leader, what does that really mean? That means that you have to take this idea, this image of change, this image of positive impact, whatever it is you want to see, and turn it into tangible steps that you not only do yourself, but that you can teach to other people. So to be a leader, by definition, you have to have followers, right? So we actually have to teach people what our idea is, how to follow us in that, meaning how they can take action in their own lives, in their own business, in their own communities, and how all these little tiny impacts can create this transformational change globally. So we not only have to be leaders ourselves and focus our own mindset on what our ideas are going to accomplish, but then we also have to teach other people how to get there with us. And with that comes a responsibility. So while we're teaching other people how to get there with us, we're responsible now for this change. So we're responsible for the impacts, both positive and negative. We're responsible for kind of all these other follow-on things. And I think that's one part of it that we don't always kind of take into account. Sometimes we want to jump in there and be the boss. But that's a little bit different, because you're not actually taking all the individual responsibilities of teaching, of coaching, of helping, of coagulating all these different efforts. So I think when you really think about global transformational leadership, all these different facets come into it, starting with our own ideas, energy, and focus, into kind of this coaching, collaboration, mentorship, how to teach other people how, to get there with us. So it's exciting, it's fantastic, it's multifaceted, but we can't forget that we have a duty in that as well, to kind of reach out to others and make sure that everybody has the guidance they need.
Thank you, Deborah. Peter, please share some of your perspective.
Well, I resonate with Sinem's emphasis on diversity and inclusion, and I also am very fascinated with the way that Deborah dissected and analyzed each of the words in the phrase global transformational leadership. Well, I think that two utterly different approaches to the world have maintained themselves for thousands of years. The Western approach and the Eastern approach. To me, being a global transformational leader means being proficient with both of these approaches. These two approaches include profoundly different social relations, views about the nature of the world, and characteristic thought processes. Each of these orientations, the Western and the Eastern, is a self-reinforcing homeostatic system. On the one hand, Westerners live in a deterministic world. They focus on salient objects or people rather than the larger picture, and they believe they can control events because they know the rules that govern the behavior of objects. The individualistic or independent nature of Western society seems consistent with the Western focus on particular objects in isolation from their context, and with their belief that they can know the rules governing objects and therefore can control the object's behavior. While on the other hand, the Chinese believe in constant change, but with things always moving back to some prior state. They pay attention to a wide range of events. They search for relationships between things, and they believe that you cannot understand the part without understanding the whole. The collective or interdependent nature of Asian society is consistent with this broad contextual view of the world and their belief that events are highly complex and determined by many factors. I believe that the Eastern approach to thinking about the world is also valid and can serve as a mirror by which to evaluate and examine Western beliefs and habits of mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Smita, we'd love to hear your ideas on GTL.
Thank you. I completely resonate with Peter's point of view with regards to, integrating Eastern and Western philosophies to really come up with a whole that addresses the inner and the outer, the sort of the Western perspective of isolation, working in isolation versus, the community elements and so on. I have very similar sort of points of view with regards to that in terms of having drawn upon some Vedic philosophies from India. But I think the main thing is that where we have a human beings, we need to look at why are they on the planet? Why are they here? Why are we here in the first place? And we spend so much of our time at work. We spend so much of our time in service of something. So then it's really important then to understand how can we support people? And I think that's where, how can we support people to grow and become the highest version of themselves. So for me, in terms of the traditional business leadership, which is focused on, and by the way, Deborah, thank you for breaking down the global transformational leader, and especially the element of transformation, which is to take something and make it into something else, as opposed to being an incremental change. I think that's really critical to understand, that transformation is not just wiping off a word of a board. It's actually literally wiping the whole board and then starting from scratch. And Sinem, with regards to your I'm surprised to hear you say it's still a male-dominated environment in technology, because that's where I come from. And I was always the only woman amongst men. So, you know, it has its own challenges. And I think to be a leader in that environment, it does take something particular. But when we're talking about traditional leadership, we're talking about being focused on profits and churning out products at the lowest costs and highest efficiency. And in those models, we definitely need to be an effective leader. Those qualities to succeed, such as strategic agility or operational excellence, stakeholder management, commercial acumen, financial insight, and so on, but extending it across emotional intelligence and relational competence. There's one element in there that I would really like to sort of put at the center, which is leading people, regardless of whatever you're doing. For me, transformational leadership really comes down to putting people first, because and that's kind of like what's referred to as human-centered leadership, where put people first and profits thrive. And human-centered leadership is where you actually lead with a very clear set of core values, such as those that Shelley's just been talking about in her GTL model, things like integrity, authenticity, and inspiring others to be and to give their best. As a transformational leader, you're focused on qualities that deliver stakeholder value, while at the same time doing what is required for the growth and well-being of our employees and colleagues, and providing outstanding experience for the customer. So what does it mean to be inspirational? And I'm going to speak from my own, you know, drawing from my own sort of views on this and my own experience. That's when you touch and move people, not just with your words, but with who you are being yourself. So you've gone through the journey of self-exploration to figure out who you are. You've figured out what you stand for and what core values are an authentic self-expression for you. You've undergone that deep breaking up and putting together process, the deep transformation for yourself, from which there is absolutely no return. You've had the epiphany, you are now this other person. And that means that you're operating from values that are, at one point, that you've explored for yourself, that you have integrated over time, and that you now embody, such that your actions are aligned with the values that you stand for, such as integrity and authenticity, because authenticity is embodying that which you say you are. And in other words, you live your life true to your values and principles. And I think Shelley mentioned that earlier. And I think that's a very high level of operating in the world, in life in general, to actually live life true to your values and principles that you wish to see others embody. Because to do that, you actually need to have, you know, very clear, need courage. You need a lot of courage. You need to have gone through that clear process, and to understand that living in any other ways is really not worth your while. I mean, for myself, I'd go so far as to say that being true to myself is really at the center of my value system. So as a who you are as a leader is less about you in the end, and then it becomes more about the change that you actually want to effect. So you're not concerned with yourself, but you're rather looking at ways of inspiring people with your concepts. And as Deborah mentioned earlier, you also need to create structures that facilitate that transformation, structures that others can engage with and carry forward, so that when they get involved in whatever it is that you're bringing forth at that level, they get so drawn into it that they start to take ownership of something that you've initiated, but they feel that they've become an intrinsic part of, it's become a part of them. So probably what I'm saying is best put into the words of the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. He said, a leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves.
That's wonderful, Smita. I appreciate that. So before we jump into the next question, I did want to share a little bit about how we look at leadership over the last 25 years. Our panelists have a diversity of backgrounds. We can look at some of those leadership skills from the Hershey-Blanchard model, where it was based on the level of development of the employee or the protege, and then we looked at servant leadership. But now in today's world, we don't necessarily need to be global transformational leaders and ordained by being an elected official or being placed in a position of leadership by a company or an entity. We have seen global transformational leaders as young children, 12 years old, start a climate change movement that inspires the world. So if you're listening today, you may be thinking, well, I'm not an elected official or I'm not in an official leadership capacity, but we want to empower you by saying, today you can be a GTL, you can create a movement that inspires you and inspires other. And with inspiration being so critical to being a GTL, we'll jump into that question next. Sinem, we'll start with you and then follow up with the other panelists, but what are some of the most important things that a GTL should do to inspire others?
So I think when we talk about inspiration from my side, it's like embodying your values and your behaviors, that what you want to see in other people. And this is such as honesty, integrity, and also your commitment to your excellence. And leader need to create opportunities for collaboration, for example, for teamwork, as well as recognizing small contribution and celebrating them. For example, I think, from my opinion, this is very important to make people feel they are seen, even if nobody sees their kindness, even if nobody sees their good impact. So we should make people feel we actually see them and we actually appreciate what they are doing at the same time. And I think there are a lot of things a global transformational leader can do to inspire, but I believe that, for example, leading by an example, supporting creativity, innovation, encouraging, always empowering people and appreciating, and at the same time fostering sense of community, it's some of the most important thing global transformation leader can do to inspire others.
Thank you, Sinem. Smita, you were kind of talking a little bit about being inspirational. Would you add on to that?
Yeah, I think what inspires people is seeing people walk their talk. And, you know, when they see people being included, being brought in, because we have this, especially in corporations, we have a culture where people tend to be, you know, there's a fear of getting involved, sharing opinions and so on. But inspirational really means walking your talk. It's really about understanding that you are as good as the people who in your team. So there's a model of collaboration that you're willing to foster and bring people in through through being what you would like to have them become. It's conscious leadership, I think, where you're truly allowing for growth and empowerment as being a part of what it is that you're bringing into your organization, and aligning all of that with the goals and objectives of the business that you share. And that might also mean, for example, having some form of on a practical level, sharing information with them in a way which may relate to your objectives, you say Sinem's business in her technology, or whether it's a corporation where you're leading 15,000 people, where you're sharing what they can avail of to help them to be a better to rise in whatever it is that they're doing. So it's not always soft qualities. Sometimes it's also sharing information that gives access to people to do their job in a more empowered way, but also to rise to being I'd say not to be afraid of sharing their points of view and being collaborative.
Wonderful. In essence of time, I'm going to kind of jump a couple of the questions, so everyone stay with us. But each of the panelists is part of the World Business Angels Investment Forum. And for our listeners today, if you're not a member and you'd love to learn more, please go to the website and check it out. We're looking for more individuals who want to be global transformational leaders and join us. And several of us on the panel today are part of the Global Women Leaders Committee. Peter, that's probably obvious. And Peter is part of the Science, Technology, and Innovation Committee. And so, Peter, I'm going to let you talk about that in a minute. I'm going to come back to the Global Women Leaders Committee. Under that auspice, I lead the Access to Finance Committee, which is helping to empower women, provide them with more finance. Our goal is to give women, 50% of our investment, as well as encourage other investors to invest 50% in women-owned businesses. So Deborah, I know that you lead another one of our committees as well as Sinem, but Deborah, I'd love to know what committee you lead and the passion you want to bring to it as a leader, and then share with us the role mentoring plays as a global transformational leader.
Thank you, Shelley. Yes, I lead the Amplify Success Stories Committee, and our ethos is to search out and highlight, those examples of success as we define it. And one of the exciting things that we get to do this year is redefine what we call a successful leadership and a successful leader, and then share those stories. So it's really nice to to give a shout out to those people who deserve it. I'll say, we all deserve it, but sometimes a pat on the back goes a long way. And in that, I really like the journey of getting people to that successful point. So I've run a company for many years, almost 3 decades. I started my first company when I was 19. So I've been an entrepreneur. I've been through the ranks. I've been a small lifestyle business owner and a global business owner, and kind of, done all the drills that it takes to get there. And finally, I get to be in a position where I can kind of share some of that learning curve with others. And help them get to where they want to go. And when I mentor or advise, I always start with a very simple question. And I think we've heard that in the discussion prior. Basically, the common thread was, finding your purpose and living your purpose. I mean, that is your authentic self, right? And sometimes people understand their purpose right away. Sometimes it takes a long time of self-discovery to figure out, what am I doing? What do I want to do? How does this even make sense in my head? So when I mentor, I always start out, okay, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? And sometimes it's the business model. Sometimes it's something totally different. But if you can't tap into kind of that piece of self, then a business is just a business, and it's not going to take you to the next level. And I think, helping people find that is the first thing that I always start with. The second thing is focus. And when I first started my business, I had mentors assigned to me. This was in Silicon Valley, so it was the typical, I'm going to say, the old white male mentor. This is the way we've always done business in Silicon Valley. This is the only way it works, and this is the way you're going to do it. And thank God I didn't know that beforehand. So I came with my own mindset and said, no, I think I'm going to try something totally different, and just go for it. And it worked for me because it resonated. But I kept hearing from these mentors, focus. And what does that really mean? My response was always, I am focused. I'm focused on my business and sending these emails and raising funds and squelching customer complaints. I'm focused all day long in 100 different directions. And it took me a long time, years and years and years, to understand what focus actually means. And it's a mindset focus. It's focusing your mind to what you want, what resonates with you, and what state of mind you're in when you do things. So if you're in a frenzied state of mind, or in a angst state of mind, or depressed state of mind, and you send that email, it's not going to have the same ring to it that that it would if you were in an excited state of mind, or a balanced state of mind. So I always tell people, focusing your state of mind, being aligned with your purpose, your business, what you're doing, that is number one. If it takes, stepping out for 10 minutes, or whatever it is, then do that first, because the impact that will have in that email, I mean, people will feel that in the response, in your conversation. So just taking that few minutes to kind of get your head right, and get yourself, where you need to be is important. So those are my two mentoring points. It took me a long time to learn it. So hopefully if I can give back to others and help them reach their own transformational pivot point, then that's my way of giving back.
Thank you, Deborah. And Sinem, I'd love to hear about you. You're leading a committee for WBAF Global Women's Leaders Committee, and love to hear your thoughts about what the role mentoring plays.
From my group, right?
Yes,
So,
please.
Yeah, okay, just to make sure I understand correctly. So currently for this year, I support women's entrepreneur growth through mentorship to create database of entrepreneurs or who are willing to be part of it, with, of course, in collaboration with WBAF. So where we'll have more female founders and entrepreneurs that will have opportunity to be matched with more experienced with company owners or people who are experienced mentors. And at the same time, we support mentorship effects through an annual facilitated virtual networking events, and so people will have opportunity to get to know each other, and as much as people will have a chance to create networking, and they may have a chance to so they will have a chance to maybe create projects together, or maybe they will learn from another person and they will start their own business, maybe they will start another project, and so on. And for third, we aim to contribute to skills of development, especially female entrepreneurs. So we aim to give recipients from every company represented in WBAF will be given a discount to the certification program that WEBD and Global Women Entrepreneurship and Business Development Certification Program. Thank you.
Fantastic. So again, if you're interested in learning more about WBAF, please check out the website. We'd love to have you join us. So Peter, I'm going to pivot to you. As we know, this is the Global Women Leaders Committee, but we invited you to join us because we want to have diversity on the panel, and that means diversity for men and women. I do want to share you're part of the Science, Technology, and Innovation Committee. We'd love to hear more about that and what you do on that committee under Dr. Ingrid, as well as we know that you just wrote a paper on authentic leadership, and we'd love to hear about some of the insights that came up during that research on authenticity.
Thanks, Shelley. So WBAF convenes a Global Science, Technology, and Innovation Committee, abbreviated STI, an international gathering of founders, leaders, and mentors for learning, connecting, and innovating. With advancements in business transformation, machine learning, and AI, there has never been a better or more challenging time for dreamers and innovators. So the STI committee gathers influential leaders to explore today's biggest technological challenges, foster deep collaboration, and generate new ideas. As to my authenticity paper, While I understand authenticity to be the degree to which a person's actions are congruent with their values, despite external pressures to social conformity. In human relationships, authenticity requires vulnerability, as it involves showing our true selves to the world, including our flaws and imperfections. Being authentic requires us to let go of our need for perfection and to embrace our humanity, including our mistakes and failures. In business, authenticity allows us to be honest about systems and processes that are or are not working. On the one hand, a person's authenticity unlocks trust, while on the other hand, a person's lack of authenticity is considered bad faith in dealing with other people. Although the concept of authentic leadership is not yet fully mature, a consensus appears to be growing that it includes self-awareness, the ability to trust one's thoughts, feelings, motives, and values, self-reflection, responsiveness to feedback, and the ability to resolve conflict in honest and non-manipulative ways. The paper that Shelley and I co-wrote proposes a three-step framework for such leadership that involves listening, learning, and leading. Listening helps leaders understand the perspectives and needs of their stakeholders, employees, and customers, and can help generate informed responses to those needs. We leverage differing perspectives by increasing our permeability to others' viewpoints and critically examining our own positions. Learning involves the lifelong solicitation of new information and experiences by which leaders can continuously develop their skills, knowledge, and understanding of their field and the world around them. This requires humility and flexibility in discarding old beliefs. It also involves a sense-making approach that favors plausibility over accuracy and the willingness to consider perspectives across various types of diversity. Leading involves casting a vision, inspiring others, and collaborating across systems to evolve and achieve shared goals. Such leadership harnesses the forces of intersectionality to develop resilience and co-ops outsider expertise, recognizing that success often hinges on collaboration rather than self-reliance. This approach seeks a representative and systematic context, with many data points coming across the various individuals in a diverse workforce to navigate today's complex landscape. The multifaceted challenges facing us today necessitate going beyond pleasantries to engage in thoughtful dialogues that give meaning to our collective experiences. Thanks, over to you.
Well, thank you, Peter. We're grateful for your insight and sharing the research. And you and I shared the research, but again, Peter did the heavy lifting. So I'm grateful to always partner with Peter and collaborate with others. Smita, we're going to give you the last question. It's hard to believe that we're at 50 minutes into our webinar, but I think the comments that are coming in are very favorable. If anybody has questions, please add those. We're trying to answer them as we can in the chat. But Smita, you get the last formal question, and that's what key things does someone need to cause transformation?
If we're looking at massive transformation, Shelley, one of the things to remember is that transformation happens one person at a time. Transformation by definition is disruptive. So if it's not disruptive, it's otherwise just small change. It's like tiny increments. Disruption by definition is uncomfortable. And hence, for every individual involved, there's a difficult mental change that they have to confront and accept when we're talking about causing transformation as leaders. That's the link between big transformation at a macro level and at an individual micro level. The macro transformation is not a thing in its own right. Macro transformation doesn't just happen. It's the sum of all the micro transformations that take place that then brings about that macro transformation. And so it really comes down to how people undergo a mind shift. Really, a transformation is really coming down to an acceptance of something different. So you need to bring your concepts of transformation as a leader in a way where not one person, but as many as are in your organization, your client base, or even your society can actually embrace your ideas from the current accepted model to your new proposed way of thinking. And as I said, it's always uncomfortable. So at an individual level, you first need to be able to help the individual to go through their own process of disruption, i.e. to help them through their valley of despair. So as a leader, you need to understand the psychology or the mind of that person, because at some level, you are undermining their belief systems. And secondly, as a leader, you need to inspire that person, because you need to give them a reason big enough, and then the motivation to go through that valley of despair. So whether you do that through, mechanisms that you put in place for communication, however you may share your information, however you may invite them to collaborate, cooperate with you, to communicate with you. And then after going through that valley of despair, then they come out the other side transformed. That's the promise. That's the carrot. So the second thing a transformational leader needs to be able to do is to actually create structures to scale the shift that they want to bring about, and then to carry it through by building momentum, causing micro shifts that build into macro shifts. So we have to bear in mind that most transformational change stalls along the way because there's not enough momentum to carry it through.
Fantastic. Well, that's amazing. It's hard to believe that it's almost been an hour and how quickly time has gone with our amazing panelists. What I'd like to let them do before we close out is ask each one of them to give a closing statement. So, Sanam, we'd love to hear your closing statement and any last words of wisdom.
I would like to say, be the best version of yourself and contribute positively to the world with any way possible, with any step you can take, because every step you take counts. And thank you so much for organizing and giving me a chance to be part of it. I'm really grateful. And thank you so much, Shaylee, for organizing it, making everything perfect. And thank you so much. And I wish everyone to have a great day.
Thank you, Sanam. And again, Sanam, part of the World Business Angels Investment Forum, she leads the mentoring committee for the Global Women Leaders Committee. So if you're wanting to make a difference and join WBAF, please do, and join the Global Women Leaders Committee, and you can join Sanam in the mentoring committee as well. So thank you, Sanam, for sharing that. Deborah, we'd love to hear your closing statement and last words of wisdom.
Thank you, Shelley. I will go back to some of the opening remarks on, the definition of global transformational leader. I think just that word gives us, this sense of impact, this sense of change that Smita was talking about. But I feel that it also gives us this responsibility to help others achieve it with us, to help them understand, to help give them tangible steps that they can do to help achieve kind of this shared vision or this shared purpose. And also it gives the leader the responsibility to make sure that, this is a beneficial impact, that this is an impact that we want to be shared, because we can, transform for good, or we can transform for the negative. And I think, with having followers and getting people on board, you as a leader are tasked with the responsibility of now balancing that and making sure that this is something that will impact, have beneficial impacts for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. That's amazing. And again, Deborah, part of the Global Women Leaders Committee, leads the success stories. And the great thing about success stories is it exemplifies a role model. And when we can create more role models, we can then create those leaders that can help inspire others. So thank you, Deborah, for doing that. Peter, I'm going to go next to Peter. I've asked him if he'll also share where you can find the paper on authentic leadership. And Peter, we'd love to hear your closing statement and last words of wisdom.
Well, in closing, I'd just like to say, as African-American writer Audre Lorde notes, it is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. I think that the maxim of agree to disagree should be invoked only after a sincere and robust attempt to examine opposing positions. When invoked at the start of a dialogue, it shows that one is not willing to explore, to question, and to be open to change. When invoked at the start of a dialogue, what will ensue is no longer a dialogue, but an attempt to simply picket for one's position. A dialogue involves listening with all sincerity in order to understand the other's view, to be challenged to present the best argument for what we consider to be true, and to be open to questioning our own position. A dialogue, therefore, requires strength and courage. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And again, Peter, part of the World Business Angels Investment Forum, is part of the Science, Technology, and Innovation. And so if you're interested in joining and doing more projects with Peter, he's available to talk to you more about that. And you can find that authentic leadership paper on the Bead Society is where we wrote it. And if you follow Peter on LinkedIn, he did post a link in the host and panelist chat, but if you follow him on LinkedIn, you can connect to that paper there as well. So thank you again, Peter, for all the great work and initiatives you're doing. Smita, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to thank Smita because she came in and said at the last minute, you know, just a week ago, I want to be on this panel. This is so amazing. So she kind of stepped into this with a fresh perspective. And I want to thank her so much for her insight and vision. So Smita, we'd love to hear your last words and those words of wisdom you want to leave our audience with today.
Thank you. I'm really, really honored to be on this panel. I must say it's been a fantastic discussion. I just want to remind people of Michelangelo's David and the statue. You know, I think when you're talking about leadership, let's really remember what exactly we're doing here. We're literally holding up, you know, we're literally unleashing the beauty, the greatness, whatever is there in front of us. Our job as leaders is to truly allow that to somehow make itself visible in the eyes of the person themselves, so that they can then take forward something that would be useful to society, to people in whatever form that might be. So I think Michelangelo and David, by the way, I've done a meditation along this called Unleash Your Potential, and it's really an ode to Michelangelo and to David, you know, that whole idea of unleashing what's within. And we sometimes need somebody to see it before we can see it for ourselves, or to remind us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Smita. And if Lucy Chow would please just turn on her camera. Lucy is our Secretary General for the Global Women's Leaders Committee. We want to thank her for supporting this panel discussion. I think it's been very successful. We've received lots of good feedback. Hopefully we'll have a follow-on, Lucy, with you and BABAR's and WBAF's approval. And I do want to throw this out to you, Peter, because you did get a question that says, please, could you tell how global leadership strategies change due to new innovation of ChatGPT? And I know with your background, that'd be great. If you could answer that in like 30 seconds or less, or if we want to take that for the next one.
Well, I think that it makes all of us have to up our game, and it ups the ante. I think that ChatGPT, I mean, as leaders, we have to do a better job than ChatGPT. And I think ChatGPT is a wonderful, wonderful tool. But I do think that we have to check the facts that it spits out, because some quotations that it shows, that it's thrown me are a bit sketchy. I couldn't find them anywhere. But I think that it's very good for generating ideas. And I think the real creativity and value that it adds is when we can really think of ingenious questions to ask it. And in turn, it will provide us with a lot of ideas for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. So again, I want to thank all our amazing panelists. Lucy Chow, thank you so much as our Secretary General for the Global Women's Leaders Committee. WBAF, BABARS, we want to thank all of you for making today's event possible. And we also want to say that we hope to have a follow-on panel. So if you enjoyed this, please send your comments to us. And again, we look forward to sharing how everyone can be a more global transformational leader in the future. So I look forward to seeing you at the next session. And until then, I look forward to seeing you. Oh, Lucy, did you have a question? Okay. Oh, she was just raising her hand. Okay. Well, until the next session, I look forward to seeing all of you around the galaxy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, everybody.